Patrice would like to know how far advanced is the Ministry of Education in engaging local farmers in the school feeding program? And the answer is not as far as we would like to have, but we are proceeding. We're beginning to use local fruits as the base for the juice that we offer to the school children. How, isn't it much better for us to use our apples and our pineapples and our mangoes and oranges as a base for the juice that is given to children? And we want to encourage farmers to cultivate more. And to say to Nutrition Products Limited, you must buy at range prices economically but reliably the produce of our farmers. Secondly, we have some very interesting proposals for the use of a porridge mix that is made from Jamaica, sweet potato and yellow yam, that we expect to bring shortly onto the market. There's a soy product that is manufactured in Jamaica that's very rich in protein, you know, and which is available particularly for our infant schools. And I long for the day when we can have more animal protein that is grown locally. Everybody wants chicken, and we have to challenge our chicken producers to give us a product which in fact is economical and is easy to store. At present, we need to project to spend about 20% of that big school feeding budget on local produce, and to increase that, to double that for the next 2 or 3 years. Some amount of our diet is going to have to be imported. We don't grow rice in this country, for example, and the base of our chickens, even our soy products, come from abroad. But the more value added in the Jamaican agriculture and agro-industrial sector we can add to school feeding is the more you increase aggregate demand, and the more prosperity you bring to a lot of people. Hello, Joseph. You're asking what plans are there to tackle the issue of sexual tendencies in our public schools, as there are increasing instances where students are engaging in such activities, and you're proposing a renewed program to push the message of education over self-gratification, as brilliant students time and time again mess up their future and contribute negatively to the country's development. I have a comment to make to you, though. You know, is that really a task that ought to be left to the schools? Shouldn't it be parents, churches, the community impulses, and indeed the nation's culture that is helping students to postpone gratification, to understand that it's best to postpone than to wait until you are older, more mature, before you engage in sexual activities? The truth is, though, that the school has to take on a lot of that responsibility because others are abdicating it. We have material in our schools now, a health and family life project that emphasizes responsibility in personal relationships. We have guidance counselors that are spread across the school system, whose purpose is to try and help young people to come to know themselves and recognize that every bodily urge is not to be immediately pandered to, and that in fact there is a great importance in completing your education, enjoying that while you mature into intimate personal relations. It's a task that involves a lot of external agencies to the ministry. We have behavior modification teams as never before that are helping young people. And when you do mention brilliant students who mess up from time to time, I think you're referring in many instances to the girls who become pregnant. And I'd like to tell you that we are anxious and avid to have them return to school as soon as they've delivered and to complete their education. And there's some remarkable instances of successes of girls who have had this experience, but who have caught up themselves, and with the help of teachers, places like the Women's Center, they've been able to turn out to be fine mothers, good wives, and excellent professionals. So there's hope. Thank you, Patrice, for asking of our vision for agricultural education and whether that might help with school feeding. The answer, of course, is yes. Uh, I would love to see each of the agricultural colleges producing food for the schools in their vicinity. You know, we mentioned in my opening remarks about the math phobia, the resistance to excellence in mathematics in our culture. One could say the same about agriculture. You know, many people believe that the only people who become uh, farmers are persons who couldn't do any other profession. That's not true. Jamaica spends about $1 billion importing food every year, and we can't afford that. That's tons more than we earn from tourism, say. A good portion of what we get from remittances. We need to produce much more food for ourselves, and that demands very bright people engaging in scientific studies, doing the best research, and the most significant cultural practices. Check out what's happening at the College of Agriculture Science nowadays. And yes, we would want more and more farmers to understand that they can earn a good living by farming economically. Farming what? Sweet potato, Irish potato, yam, orchard crops, protein sources, beans, legumes that can in fact be incorporated in the school feeding program. So there's a good future for school feeding relating to local agriculture. We want some bright students to take up agricultural science as a study and as a profession. And we're willing to give them special scholarships to do so if they're really serious. That, of course, has to be connected with a good land program, which gives them the opportunity to farm for themselves or to find employment opportunities with other agro-industries. And I believe that we have the kind of joint of government now which will prepare us for that. Again, we need some very avid agriculturalists in our schools to teach the subjects, to run school gardens, and to show that this is a reputable profession. Levar is asking, are there any examples of big educational reforms in recent years? Of course, the emphasis on early childhood education is relatively new, and the pace of the change and the depth of the concern for early childhood is a big movement in recent years. Secondly, the emphasis on appropriate literacy and numeracy targets at uh, grade 4 is major and is bearing fruit right away, as is the change of our philosophy, where we are training people for employment rather than simply following historical academic trends and expecting the economy to adjust to those. I could go on. The major educational reforms that are taking place. The second part of Levar's question is, do I think that the diaspora can play a role in supporting education in Jamaica? Emphatically, yes. The diaspora is playing a tremendous role. They send back millions of dollars worth of money, of equipment, of shared personnel to Jamaican schools every year. We couldn't do without that. In addition, many diaspora residents who are teachers themselves offer helpful suggestions in developing curricula and providing literature, both to the nation as a whole and also to their particular institutions. I want the diaspora to become more and more engaged in education. It's a very uh, good way for them to retain their Jamaican-ness and make a very important contribution to their country. Julian's on the line again, and she's asking, can I give a time frame for the plan by the ministry to increase the stipend for the early childhood teachers? She'll soon be graduating from St. Joseph Teachers College. Oh my goodness. Well, the answer is that we hope to increase the stipend in April of this year, and we want to increase it progressively as our budget allows. We want to do that because we want to get the very best teachers like Julian to stay in the early childhood sector. It's not just those who couldn't take higher learning who teach the little ones anymore. It's those who understand all of the complexity of personality development and of brain growth that will be able to really make our little children bright if we start them out right. We've got to do it right the first time. And Patrice is asking if I'm concerned about the brain drain. Not really. I think we have a history of over the last 200 years of people going abroad and plying their trade and earning and connecting with Jamaica. Right now, many of our brilliant academics and developmentalists have spent long times abroad. We lose some, so does every country in the world. But that could never be an argument for curtailing investment in education. She says that higher education is well marketed and accessibility is much easier than 2 decades ago. Yes, but a lot of young people are either unemployed or underemployed. How do you encourage these young people? I repeat, we want them to be careful what courses they undertake, what professions they betake themselves to. Look carefully and take advice as to what you want to study. Don't always follow your heart, although that's very important. Do something that is likely to get you a job, even if that's your platform for allowing you then to change and do something that you may prefer to do later on. I know some people who are very talented administrators, but their real interest is in interior decorating. But they couldn't make a career out of that, so they became employable in administration and then were able, when they had the leisure and the resources, the capital, to do what they really wanted to do. Fabian writes, based on the behavior of the students at school now, that is their valid behavior, should flogging of students be brought back into the education system to stem this outbreak? And my answer is no. Treating humans like animals doesn't really help. And there's every scientific information that we have nowadays that flogging, beating does not really effectively change conduct. What it will do is to terrorize and frighten some into submission, but it does not really change behavior effectively. There may be instances, this is a personal view, where short sharp shock, I call it, may be necessary if someone's doing something very dangerous to themselves or to others. But there can be no reintroduction of corporal punishment as a normal means of behavior modification in our schools. And Fabian goes on, one main area that needs to be addressed more is the area that helps students with reasoning skills, with mental ability. I see. He's asking, will mental ability be brought back to the primary level? I don't think it's going to be brought back as a topic itself, but it's going to be incorporated, isn't it, in every aspect of the new curriculum, which is now being tested in Jamaica and will in fact become present in every school in the next year or two. And students are going to have to stop memorizing and learn to think and to problem solve. And that has to start from the very earliest age. It's going to change the way teachers teach. It's going to revolutionize education, I think, for the better. And here's my friend Joseph again. I wish you let me. I'm asking how I can keep up the dialogue with the ministry, as I know you're all for development and fully support youths completing their education. I'm currently pursuing 4 CAPE Unit 2 subjects and have already secured 4 CAPE Units 1s plus 10 CSEC subjects. Congratulations, Joseph. Finances have certainly been an issue for you, and I know the value of education, so I stay determined. I'm also a part of the PATH program, which have helped me tremendously. I'm very apprehensive about the near future for me matriculating to the UWI. Well, listen, first of all, congratulations again, and you should worry. We want to help people like you, and if you've been on PATH, you're in a special category. I want you to get in touch with Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson at the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission. That's on the Gibraltar Camp Road at the University of the West Indies. And it's not just for UWI students. Anyone who wants assistance at the tertiary level can go to JTech, as it's called, and you'll get advice, you'll get referral, and no doubt in your circumstances, if you're both brilliant and in financial need, you will be assisted. More and more people are being helped in these ways. They have to take up some of their responsibility where it's possible, yes, and they have to obligate themselves to where they are paid for by taxpayers' money. But you must get ahead with your studies. No one who's really interested and who is really dedicated to the work is going to be left behind. We make you that promise. Thank you, Patrice, for searching questions. What are my recommendations for trained teachers who are unemployed? Surf the job market widely. There's a long tradition in Jamaica of professional teachers becoming employed in all areas of business, of industry, of finance, of manufacture. The fact is that teacher training uh, enables you in very wide skills, and so if you can't fit in the classroom for the moment, you can apply widely. Secondly, many trained teachers offer themselves as tutors. There's a thriving extra lessons industry, and I know many teachers engage themselves in that regard. Thirdly, here's a suggestion. Maybe you're unemployed because there isn't any need for the skills in your particular area. Would you consider relocating? Would you consider accepting employment in a different part of Jamaica? Or if you can, why don't you consider signing up for one of the upgrading or courses that the Ministry of Education and the teachers' colleges in conjunction with UWI offer every year? Because maybe if you could take on a related skill to the one that's your specialty, you would find it much easier to find employment. So there are many ways in which you can deploy. Some teachers like yourself have taken to writing books and study guides. Uh, so that's a possibility also. And then there is the option of overseas employment, but you normally need to have some experience in order to qualify for that. More and more now, because we have a large cadre of teachers, we have invited the teacher training colleges to become multidisciplinary, so that in fact you can engage in a variety of different skills while going to a teacher's college. It's not unilinear anymore. Hi Tracy, thanks for your question about the A-STEP program. It's not going to be used in the same way that it has been in the past in the upcoming school year. Tell you why. What we found, you see, is that some of the main deficiencies of the students who went into the A-STEP program were their incomplete command of English and sufficient mathematics. And therefore, there's a program now of alternative pathways, because many of these students really aren't going to transition back into the high schools as had originally been planned. They need a different route to to achieving their educational potential. A few, will transition back, but our experience tells us that others will have to be placed in programs that are going to emphasize their technical and vocational skills. Some may need considerable behavioral intervention, and so it's not one size fitting all. We are now adjusting to the particular needs of the A-STEP students, and the outcomes are likely to be far better than they were before. Thanks, Tracy, for the follow-up question. Teachers will be trained to deal with the students in the renewed program previously known as A-STEP, the Alternate Pathways Program. And there will be pathway coaches that would be available to them for instruction and advice as to how they can better handle some of the challenges of the students who fall into that category. Joseph, thanks again for your question, and it is true that not all schools have the same range and quality of offerings at the high school level, and therefore there is this continuing competition for places in the so-called good schools. That's exactly what the Ministry of Education has been trying to do with some success for the past 4 years. We've been trying to uplift all schools so that they have areas of strong competence and certainly basic subjects which are at a reasonably uniform level. It's going to take some time for it to take place, but I urge you to look at the results of some of the so-called new secondary schools, and they're doing as well and sometimes better in particular areas than some of the traditional schools. And therefore, my advice to parents who are helping their children to choose schools is that take into account uh, the, 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 the strength of all of the schools in the curtilage where you live, and recognize that the safety, the cost issues that recommend schools close to where you live can be very persuasive. So please, let's recognize that we haven't achieved an equality of opportunity in our schools. I don't think any nation has. So the bar always has to be raised for everyone. And we have a group of schools in Jamaica now, high schools, called turnaround schools, and they're the ones that have had the greatest challenges, and you should see how they are improving. I could name some, but it would be invidious because I would leave out others. But we are moving in the direction that you speak of. It is the best way to go to ensure that all of our children have not just access, but quality and equity in their education. Thank you all for participating in this forum this evening. I invite you to climb up the education ladder to better yourself. It's open for every Jamaican, whatever your level, whatever the skill that you want to improve on. Remember, education is the best gift that any government can give to its people. There are wide and deep opportunities now available in Jamaica. Let's make use of them.